why it's so important.
Flexibility and why it is important. We are here with Molly because Molly is extremely flexible. She can do things that I can't, and I can do things she can't, and we'll just leave that at that. Although, to be fair, recently I think she'll be doing more things that I probably can't be doing.
Probably, but that's your job to push me into doing better with it. See if you can see that I've got a talent and there's something that I'm drawn towards. You need to be like, oh, but no, awesome, brilliant stuff. So, topics that we wanted to cover. Obviously, flexibility, main principles of flexibility, and why it is so important to be introducing stretching, whether be it dynamic, static, yoga, whatever form of stretching, into your daily routine. Whether you train, no matter what kind of training you do, whether you're a runner, whether you're a power lifter, if you do MMA, whatever you do, stretching and needs to be part of your routine for many different reasons, which we're going to cover right now.
Yeah, we're going to cover right this very second. It's going to happen at some point after we stop laughing. Oh dear. So stretching. I preach and have preached this to all my clients and have done it for many, many years. Stretching is one of those things that's completely changed my life in terms of range of motion at the joints, but actually then tailored towards any kind of lifting I've done, whether it be powerlifting or bodybuilding or calisthenics, is what we were just talking about. Calisthenic training, obviously a massive part of bodyweight training, and much more as we go into old age. The older you get, the more inflexible you are, actually the worse it gets, and then the more you actually end up pulling muscles, or the more you end up having spasms and aches and pains, and then actually the worse it becomes. Obviously in your profession you probably see this a lot more.
I think it's really important what you just covered there, James, in regards to aging. Obviously when we age, our muscles, we lose, 10% of muscle,
After the age of 41, you lose 1% of muscle every single year.
And that is a lot if you add it up. And so if you think, if you're someone who's not training, and then you're not even lengthening and working on stretching those muscles out, you are going to get to a point in your 70s or whatever age. Sometimes I've seen people in their late 40s who struggle getting out of chairs, and it's not right. I feel like we do age far too quickly, purely because of, Western lifestyle, not looking after our bodies, being pretty lazy, things like that. But what you just mentioned about why stretching is so important, especially as we age, with the stretching, it is just as important that we are doing our resistance training. Just as well. You can want to be flexible, you want to work on lengthening your muscles, becoming really super flexible, but if you are not doing some form of training that is strengthening those muscles, you're going to run into a lot of issues, which I have personally experienced myself. I used to be a gymnast, and then I lost a ton of weight, and then all I could really do was be flexible, but I had no power. I had no control of the motions I was going through, simply because I only worked on lengthening my muscles and not strengthening them. It's pretty much like taking an elastic band and expecting that elastic band to be able to stand up by itself. It's impossible. So if you want to become flexible, don't sleep on your resistance training. End off.
What a lot of people actually find, and this is what I've had pushback on with lots of clients, is that people don't like stretching because it's quite demonized. But then people will love yoga. But the issue I have with yoga is it's very different to what I would classify as stretching. So there's loads of, stretching's actually become quite a big thing on social media at the moment, because people who are actually genuinely very, very do train flexibility in the same you would train any resistance weight.
Exactly.
So you do multiple sets, you do multiple reps of the same exercise, rather than most people, especially for me for the longest time, you would just go and do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, and just do one round and then do it. But you would never do that for any other style of training. So why would you do that for your flexibility? How have you trained flexibility in the past?
Pretty much exactly the same. I'll set myself up, and I sometimes will spend a good hour stretching, but I'm very lucky because I generally enjoy it. It makes me feel very connected to my body, not being whimsical and everything, but it makes me feel really connected to my body, just how lifting weights might make someone else feel connected to their body. As I always tell my patients at the clinic, you need to start seeing the stretching as part of your workout. So say, for instance, if you're going to go in for a leg day, what we're going to do after, you wouldn't be like, I'm going to skip out on my Bulgarian split squats today, actually, because I just can't be bothered. Sometimes you might, but you shouldn't. I try and encourage my patients to be like, just write it down, include it in your split, write exactly what stretches you intend to do, just like with what exercises you intend to do. Don't just think, I'm going to stretch after. That could literally mean anything. Write your stretches down. Actually be mindful and purposeful about your stretches. Don't make them become an afterthought, because that's the main issue with stretching. It's people who've spent 40 minutes, an hour in the gym working out. Oh, it's time to stretch. You might just 5 seconds, like, oh, I'm done now. It's good enough. It's not. It's not. So again, be more mindful. Have the intention of what stretches you're going to do, how they're going to benefit you, and don't have them as so much of an afterthought. See them as just as important as all of your other movements in your split. Stretches need to come first to an extent also for injury prevention, everything else. The amount of times we see people with niggles here and there, tight hamstrings, whatever. This could be so easily rectified if you just started implementing more stretch routines in and after your workouts, and even on your days, on your rest days, just sit on the lounge floor. You can do it anywhere. Go in the garden, do some stretches for 5 minutes, however long you want to do it, and just try and make it something really enjoyable for yourself rather than, oh, I got to go do this now. Look at it almost as it's something to be lucky about, really, the fact that we can move our bodies, so learn to look after them and respect them.
You said something really important there about just doing it for your health, but then also doing it when you... The biggest thing that people come to me and say is, oh, I don't have time to stretch.
Everyone's got time to stretch.
It's complete bollocks, because how many hours do you actually sit in front of the telly?
Exactly.
You know? And you can stretch while you're in front of the telly. No issue at all. Like, I do it all the time. I'll just have like telly on my phone or something, and I'll stretch for an hour while I'm watching.
Guys, if you can do bicep curls whilst watching the, some gyms have TVs.
That's true.
If you can do your bicep curls whilst watching the television, you can stretch whilst watching the TV.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's no different. Absolutely no different.
And then you can do it at home. You can do it in front of everybody.
Do it wherever. Do it on the bloody train if you commute. Who cares? No one gives a shit what you're doing.
I know there's a lot of people out there who have they don't like, they do worry about what other people think of them, and that's completely understandable. Not having that body confidence to be able to do those things. But just taking 5, 10, 15 minutes, even if you split that up through multiple times a day. I've had different clients in the past who have struggled to do that for such a long period of time. They would struggle to do any weighted exercise for such a long period of time, and that's completely understandable. So break it up into multiple facets of the day, and then that way you're still getting your reps, you're still getting your sets in every single day, and the amount of difference it will make to your life, not only the actual improvement in your everyday life, but actually your improvement in other people's lives that are around you closely, because you'll have better flexibility. You'll be able to help them more. So you're not only doing a service to yourself, you're doing a service to other people as well.
Exactly.
Not even thinking about it, just for spending 15 minutes to an hour a day in front of the telly, doing what you're going to do anyway, just sat down on the floor stretching.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people, they do get lost in terms of what stretches to do, how to stretch. Obviously, there's so many different stretches that will really target certain muscle groups, and also not just talk about the muscles, even the connective tissues in the joints. Also, stretching not only helps the muscle, it helps like joint capacity. You want to keep those joints nice and lubricant. You want to keep them moving and flowing freely and easily. But if you've got all this built up tension around the joints, around our structure, our skeletal system, you're going to feel like you're just going to feel crappy all the time, and it's going to really kind of push you back on your training. And also there's a lot of research that shows where if you do look after your musculoskeletal health, being if you are kind of working on lengthening the muscles, you're actually going to progress a lot quicker, because the circulation is better, hydration is better in the soft tissue, nutrients are able to push to that muscle mass a lot quicker and more effectively. So it literally doesn't even just come down to feeling good. It also comes down to you're actually going to be a lot more progression in your results. And again, it really does just come down to looking after your body more than anything. It's very easy. And there's lots of different, any competitive sport is unhealthy to an extent. Kickboxing, like weight cuts, are unhealthy. There's many elements to powerlifting that's unhealthy. Bodybuilding, there's a hell of a lot of elements that are unhealthy. So it's kind of like, okay, what things can we implement into these sports that are going to help me? Because at the end of the day, any competitive athlete, you can't escape the cons of it. That's just how it is. That's literally just how it is. And that's kind of what makes competitive sports so addictive, because there are kind of somewhat negative elements, but it's either be sat on your ass all day deteriorating, or go through a little bit of suffering in a sport that actually fulfills you. And the very least you could do is look after your body and look after your muscles, because you might be feeling great in your 20s, but how are you going to be feeling in your 40s?
Yeah.
You know, are you bulletproofing yourself? These are things that you really need to think about at the end of the day.
We have evacuated outside because of the stupid fucking fire alarm. So, what were you saying about? You were saying something about your hips feel really tight.
Yes. Yeah. So we were literally just talking about how even down to how stress is stored in the body, because it's a very real thing. There's so much evidence that backs this up. Stress isn't just stored in the head or the heart, for instance. It's stored in various parts of the body. For women, it's very common for us to store a lot of stress in our hips, for instance. For whatever reason, who knows? It's just like how a lot of people might store stress up in the upper trapezius, things like that, or even clenching the jaw. But we're saying, like, if you are storing a lot of stress in certain parts of your body and certain muscles, it's very difficult for these muscles to catch up with the rest of your body, and they can be really stubborn with training. Like me, for instance, I've got a long back. We're also pretty much saying a lot of weak points in the body. If you have got stubborn muscles, for instance, like me, predominantly it is quads and glutes. I'm very, very stubborn. I find them really hard to grow. From
a trauma perspective and like a pain perspective, from my perspective, trauma is all stored in the hips. And again, that's where everything's going to be let loose from in terms of that aspect, especially your physical and your sexual abuse as well. That's all kept around those areas, which is why we get such bad hip pain and joint pain around those areas. I've described in multiple different videos about why I have so much pain in my hip, and this is why Molly abuses me and she attacks me and my hips and my legs and stuff, because that's where all my trauma is kept, and that's where obviously where I had my motorbike accident. That's where all my predominantly pain receptors are, and then obviously it travels up and it travels down from there. There's always a point of origin, and then it's working out why those are hurting in that particular respect.
Exactly.
But it's good. We spoke about that. But the primary point of being is that stretching is extremely important. If you don't know what stretches to do, I have a whole stretch video you can follow along with. It's like half an hour of just me on a mat on the beach. It's actually quite a lovely video. Nice. It's nice. It was good. So don't skip on your stretches, guys. Extremely important for everything. And any last remarks?
Just like what James was saying just then about you storing a lot of stress and trauma in your hips, back, etc. Everyone's really different. By stretching and allowing yourself to stretch and giving yourself the time to actually stretch and work on lengthening the muscles and giving them the TLC they probably need. It's also really good for emotional release more than anything. Again, you're storing trauma, you're storing stress in the body. When you're weightlifting, you are creating lots of micro tears, and weightlifting resistance training is really good. Stress is really good in short bursts, but if you're someone that's dealing with chronic long-term stress, by adding multiple other stresses on the body, this can really start to weigh you down. So it's really important that you do the kind of behind the scenes TLC, be it getting a sports massage, be it obviously stretching every day, all these different things, all these little adjustments that you can put into your life that are just going to really improve your health, as well as your mental health well-being. And obviously, at the end of the day, this whole podcast is about bulletproofing.
Well done.
No, do it
again. Oh dear.
And obviously the whole idea of this podcast that James has come up with, it is to help you guys bulletproof yourselves. That's literally the whole entire idea. And he's giving all this information out. He's giving all this information out for free. So do yourself a favour, drop him a follow, watch his videos, drop him a message if you're not too sure about anything. Again, he's been my coach for quite a while now, and probably best decision I've ever made. I've learnt a lot. And it's a nice little collaboration we got going on, isn't it? Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Do what she says. Drop me a like, a follow. Make sure you comment your thoughts down below. And make sure you tune in for the next one. And I don't actually know what we're going over next time, but make sure you tune in and follow along the series.